The Ryan Tubridy Show on RTE Radio 1, sponsored by Sky Broadband. With our broadband, your world is limitless. Live beyond.
I've just been joined by two women here this morning, a mother and daughter team who you would most definitely not want to mess with. They've learnt a self-defence system called Krav Maga. It's new to me. It's used by the military all over the world. Denise Deegan and daughter Amy Concannon. You're very welcome this morning. Denise, last year, this is all quite recent to you, but last year you were thinking of getting your daughter a Christmas present. And then you thought, Israeli military defence.
Well, I happened to be walking and with somebody, and they were talking about they had done it and they recommended it, and I wanted to pick. So I always pick surprises, and it gets harder, as you can imagine, every year to get one that they don't expect. So I thought this would be kind of interesting, and we could maybe do it together and have fun, because you can do it over a weekend. So I thought and Amy is quite physical as well and aggressive. I'm joking. But I just thought it'd be totally her thing. So we finally did it in February, and we've since just done a sort of a recap.
So just tell, I've never heard of it before. Krav Maga, what is it?
So it's counter assault, really. It's more than self-defense, because you become the attacker when you're attacked, and it was developed by the Israeli army. So it's really powerful. And we went to Krav Maga Ireland, and the guy who does that is called Patrick Humisky, and he brought it to Ireland. He was the guy who brought it to Ireland. So, and he's brilliant, and he does more than just teach you the moves. Like, he does the whole psychology of an attacker, and if you get into the headspace of an attacker, you can hopefully try and avoid getting into a situation in the first place.
So Amy, when your mum gave you this present, what did you think?
I was surprised and really looking forward to it, because it's something that I'd never done before. And I know I did karate growing up, and it was a good pastime, but I didn't feel like it would have any real weight in an actual fight. Like, it felt like I was doing kind of a hobby, not something that would actually stand to me if I ever needed it.
So it's kind of described as a mixture of boxing, wrestling, aikido, judo, karate, as well as realistic fighting.
Yeah. It's wild.
Yeah, it is. And it's what I loved about it is Patrick Kumsky, the guy running it, was, you could see he just totally loved that whole aspect of battle. But he's
also like he's really incredibly well researched. Like, he has some basis for everything he teaches you, like some study or some foundation or some story or some personal experience, and it's like not only really useful information, but it's so interesting to just listen to him.
And take us into the class itself when you arrived. What was the first thing you did?
Well, the first thing
a few press-ups.
Yeah, they warmed us up first. And what I was surprised about was that there were actually a huge amount of men in our class. There were more men than women, which was surprising. And they make the point that anybody can do it. You can be old, young. I mean, we just did a recent one, which was a mother and daughter one, and the youngest person was 13. And she was a total ninja by the end of it. Like, at the beginning, you realise, oh gosh, she's so small and whatever, but she was brilliant. So it was really an introduction to where Krav Maga came from, and then the psychology of an attacker and how you can try and avoid things. Then Patrick did this thing, and we kind of didn't know it was coming, and it was he was I guess taking the position of an attacker himself without actually telling us, though he was getting it. He actually unfortunately picked me for this one, and he
like, he surprised you.
Oh yeah. Well, he started moving closer to me and closer as he was speaking to me, and I was feeling uncomfortable, but it's so typical for, I think, particularly Irish women, to just almost excuse the person when they start doing something that makes you uncomfortable. So I did something like I stepped back, and he kept coming, and what he was trying to show us is that an attacker will do this, and really it's a sort of way of determining who to attack.
He was like, because calls it an interview, and he's like, he's interviewing you for this job. You know, like, when you back away, you're getting it. Do you know what I mean?
Backing away would be a natural thing if someone came back, wouldn't it? Because you want to make sure that you don't want to attack someone who's actually maybe just got, can't quite see.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, and he was trying to impress that it's kind of like, okay, to maintain your space, like, definitely back away, but don't shrink into yourself, and don't.
And he has a great stance that you can take, and you can make yourself look really natural while doing this, and it's a protective stance, so that as you're backing away, you're bringing your arms up, your elbows bent, your arms close to your body, body and you're having one leg bent so that you're ready if he does attack, that you can defend and counter-attack. But you can do that actually quite well. So you work in pairs. So the woman who was working with me really taught me a good lesson that you can actually make your face really smiley and, oh, how's it going, blah, 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 but your body is actually getting into defence mode. So it's really, as Amy said, it's like an interview. They're pushing forward to you, and then as you're stepping back, getting into the defence, you're kind of saying, you're kind of backing off, and you're saying, okay, and you're increasing your voice all the time. Leave me alone. Go away. Leave me alone. And so it's very clear that if they keep coming, that they are meaning you harm. Because, you know, if you can imagine, let's say, as I was imagining my husband, a man in that situation, if they thought for 1 second they'd upset a woman, they would be like, whoa, totally backing off. But if the person is still coming, then you got the right idea. They are meaning you harm.
If I came up behind you suddenly, what would you do?
Yeah, so he gives you all these different moves. So
it's real, but it's like he doesn't just give you like, he's like, not, there's no, I don't know, mentality of do this. There's no one right action. He gives you like a very foundational toolkit to be like, all of this generally works, but it's a lot about working with what you have and your mental attitude to it. Like, he leaves you with a lot of really interesting thoughts. Like, I remember at one point he was like, would you kill somebody to save your child's life or your parents' life? And everyone in the room was obviously like, yeah, of course I would. And he was like, would you kill someone to save your own life? And then there was like a lot of hesitation there, and it was like, it's a lot about the attitude. Like, he gives you a lot of different grips and a lot of different like pulls and L's and ways to move and ways to like hold yourself and comport yourself so that you're like gonna deal the best with the situation. But
so it's almost like being ready for it.
A huge amount of it is like headspace training
and avoiding getting into situations. Like he said, and I felt this was wonderful in the mother and daughter one. Often when you're in a situation when you're trying to tell your daughter, oh, you know, how are you getting home and all this, if they're teenagers or whatever, they can just not listen to you or get irritated. And he the fact that he has the daughter in the class, and he's basically saying, what I do when I'm out or when I'm going out, I plan that how I'm getting home. I plan that I'm getting this taxi. And it's not just, oh, I'll just get a taxi when I come out. It's like, do I have Halo? Is it all set up? I'm not going to find myself in a certain place.
Have you had situations that have worried you where Krav Maga could have been helpful in the past?
Yeah, definitely. Well, Amy had one, and I've had actually 3, but over a good long period of time.
What happened?
Well, one time I was followed, and in fact, Amy had just been born, and I'd been in an argument with my husband, and I was like, I want my own free time. And so I go into Dunleary and start marching around to have my own free time. And I kept finding this person everywhere I went, like inappropriate places you wouldn't think this guy would be, for instance, into a toy shop that no longer exists. And he followed me right back to the car. And when I was luckily I had parked on Marine Road, which is very open and wide and busy. And as I was getting into the car, he was like on the other side of the door. And you're kind of really not prepared at all. And he just sort of complimented me, and then, you know, my appearance and that, and then he asked my name, and I stupidly gave him, well, my first name, but not my second name. Then I jumped in the car and I literally drove off, locked the doors and drove off. Another time I was driving home from dropping a babysitter, and the other thing he tells you to do is trust your gut feeling.
So in that situation, you know, where would Krav Maga come in?
Well, I think I would have been much more aware much earlier on that this person was following me, and I wouldn't have gone back to the car. I would have gone to the police station. I would just walk to the police station. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. It's just to be aware.
And Amy, you've had situations in the past, have you?
I mean, yeah, it's nothing that far off what mum was described. Like, yeah, I've been followed and stuff before, but I don't know, it's amazing how lucky it makes you feel. It made me feel being in the class, because I felt everyone had a pretty severe story, and I was like, God, this is very much luck of the draw. That's all that's happened to me. Do you know what I mean? Pretty much everyone had something to toss in, like their own 2 cents.
Yeah, I remember when I was about 10 or 11, I used to get the bus into town to play music, and I began to become aware, just like you said, of a man following me, and it went on and on and on for for months, and
Oh, gosh.
it's funny how I have his face imprinted in my mind, but you can even now thinking about his face, you can feel it in your gut.
Yeah, that's it, and that's what you really have to trust. And I loved this when we were doing the mother and daughter course, that he was saying to everybody, but particularly the young people in the room, like, if you're on a bus and if somebody sits beside you and you don't feel right, get up, move. You trust your gut, and I think that's a really powerful thing for young people to listen to.
And there's one of it as well. He was like, one thing that really spoke to me, because people always say that, you've always said since we've been yay high, like, always trust your gut, blah, blah, blah. But one thing that he said was, like, he gave, once again, scientific reasoning for it. And he's like, so you have your subconscious mind that's always fizzing information about your surroundings, and you're not always, like, interacting with it verbally in your own mind. But that's what gives you a gut feeling. So when you get it trusted, like, for example, if you're in a car park, you get a feeling and you don't know why it is because you haven't had time to maybe process and vocalize it to yourself, maybe it's just leave, because maybe later you realize, oh, wait a minute, there was a man just standing in the car park and I don't know why it made me feel weird, but now I realize that he wasn't coming or going, he wasn't putting anything in a car, he wasn't
Just get out
returning
of
a
the
trolley.
situation. Yeah.
And it's like, it was weird, you didn't have time to notice, but it was.
And do you surprise each other at home to keep your Krav Maga muscle alive?
Yeah, we're like Pink Panther and Kato. We kind of spring on each other, but she's much stronger than I am, so I'm not like, even when I spring on her, I'm kind of thinking this is a mistake. She's actually really tough.
But it's a bit like karate, you have to actually
Definitely
keep doing it.
Yeah, well, just to remember the moves. But, as Amy was saying earlier, it's really a case of when you're surprised like that, and if you have to fight back, you're looking at what's free, what's available, where are the vulnerable points, how do I, get to them, how do I get free? And, it's getting free and running, but also things like using your voice, which I thought was really interesting, that you start screaming at them. And so it could be like, no, leave me alone, but you're screaming, and that does lots of things. One, they want to pick a quiet, easy victim. You are not being quiet. You are not being easy, and you're being noticeable. But also it helps you breathe, and so it's really good.
And just briefly, where can people find out more about Krav Maga?
Well, Krav Maga Ireland is the one we did, and we thought that was really good. So we found it was somebody recommended to me, but then I looked up on the internet. So just Krav Maga Ireland. If you Google that, you'll.
Fantastic. Well, Denise Deegan and Amy Concannon, thank you so much both for coming in this morning. We'll take a break.